and then turn it over. Oh, there it goes, recording in progress. And then I will turn it over to CPO 6 Chair, Becky Marnici.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here tonight. We're going to start off with an update from the Sheriff's Department.
Deputy Condon, do you want to start? I'm Cody Harris, by the way, though. I'm your education outreach specialist, but I will let him start to see if he has any notes for specific to the area. And while you're doing that, if you want, do you want me to pull up the map?
Yeah, if you want to pull up the map, sure.
I can get it here. 1 second. Can you introduce yourself while I'm pulling this up? Sorry, 1 second.
Yeah, I'm Deputy Condon with the Washington County Sheriff's Office.
5424 1015.
All right, can you guys see that there?
Yeah, kind of. You got to zoom in.
So what I noticed recently compared to the last couple of months for you guys is that really these are calls for service, so they're not necessarily convicted crimes, but it does look like it's pretty full, but actually there's a lot less on here than the last couple of maps, because before we had a lot more clusters that were really heavy and dense on top of each other, and now they're really more spread out, but there's actually less on here than there was before. So I thought that was an interesting reflection, but maybe Deputy Condon has more information for us.
I mean, this is my first CPO meeting, so I'm not sure what you're wanting me to touch on.
Let me help you out here. Hi, folks. My name is Lieutenant James Coley. I go by my middle name. Everybody just calls me Mitch, and I'm the command officer for your community. So when you look at the heat map, you might look at that and think, wow, we have a lot of crimes going on. But what I will tell you is that really some of those can be overlays over a long period of time, so they're not just all happening right now. When you take little points over time and you plot them on a map, it can look a little overwhelming. So what we really need to do is we need to look at what is the level of involvement that's going on in the community for law enforcement and livability issues in relation to past events. So, and I think that's what Cody was touching on, is this might look a little overwhelming, but in relation to historically how it is, I don't think we're seeing necessarily an increase in criminal activity in the area. Would that be fair to say, Cody?
I would agree.
And Deputy Condon, thank you for being here. I forgot that this was your first one.
Yeah, no problem. You said it much better than I could.
I stay away from the heat map unless someone has specific things that they want to talk about, just because it can really give the wrong lens and perspective that crime is rampant. But at the same time, we don't want to shy away from criminal activity or events that are concerning to the community, and we're here to address those as well.
So two of the major points from that is, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to throw in really quickly that we had some requests earlier from some community members asking if we could touch on maybe an update about the houseless camp at 197th and Baseline.
Yes, and we can get to that. I think Cody has it on the agenda. I just want to make sure we're following the timeline. Is this a good time, Cody, or did you want to continue with that in a minute? Or?
Yeah, if you guys don't mind, I'll give my quick safety message for this week, and then Mitch can take it from there. So I just wanted to touch on the fact that really, if you look at that map, one of the reasons why we talked about sharing it this week is that the biggest color spread you see on there was those red triangles. And a lot of those are crimes of opportunity. So those are people left their cars open. It's that time of year. We all leave our garage open. We've all done it. We know if you have a garage, So remembering to make sure you bring bikes in, remembering to make sure you shut the shed, those little things that are those easy opportunities, because we're not really seeing the break inside of it as much as we're seeing just easy opportunities that where people are taking advantage of those situations. So turning lights on, follow that 9 p.m. routine. I'll put that in the chat. I know every year, those of you that have talked to us every year, you know, and see us in these events, it is the 100 deadliest days for teen driving. So please remember, if you have teens in your life, just remind them to slow down. We're going to possibly get some rain. You know, the roads could be always a little bit slicker, but that distracted driving. So please, on that note, just any teens, you know, in your life, young adults that are early drivers, this is usually one of the hardest times of year for that. So just reminding everybody as well, with the heat coming back again this next week, life jackets, life jackets, life jackets. It's been one of the deadliest years for open water swimming in the state of Oregon that we've seen in many years. So just a reminder there for all of you. Otherwise, I hope to see all of you at the park opening for POPO with THPRD that I'm sure Tim will tell us more about. I'll be there on Monday. So hopefully I get to meet all of y'all that I haven't gotten to meet before. So I'll pass it over to you, Mitch. Thank you.
Perfect. And Becky, would you mind asking your question again? Because I caught part of it and I wasn't, I want to make sure I didn't gloss over something.
Sure. Yes, I just we had some community members who were hoping that we could get some updates on the houseless camp at 197th and Baseline.
Yes. And so first I want to address the issue of being houseless and trying to take care of our unhoused community. And I think that everybody here and everybody in our community would look at that from a lens of, we want people to be secure, regardless of their status, right? For whatever reason, somebody may be unhoused. They're separate of that. There's a ruling that comes out of the 9th District Court, which is Martin v. Boise. And so Martin Boise does tell us that people cannot be arrested or impacted, and I believe nor should they, because they are houseless. And so when some of our community members are on public lands, it makes it difficult to navigate such a hard social topic. So that's the first part I want to talk about. So we can't go out and arrest people that are on public lands because they don't have anywhere else to go. We can't go out and remove people from public lands. They don't have anywhere else to go. What we can do is we can bring the difficult conversation to the table that it impacts the surrounding community. And we get that. So we try to watch for the crimes that are occurring and we try to address those when they do occur. And so that's kind of what happened at BCH. It was a lot of factors that came into that requiring a cleanup. And so some of the factors that went into play were the heavy brush, and we've had a dry and warm season. So we've had fires that were some intentionally set, some accidentally set because people are trying to cook. And so when those get out of hand, those are a concern. We've had some crimes down there. And so those are not inclusive of the entire community, but individuals that were down there, and we try to impact those as well. And then we look at the size of the community and some other factors and the environmental impact. So we make a decision to go down and reconstitute the land so that it's not a hazard for the surrounding community and the community's members that live down there. And I can tell you that I see that Commissioner Nafai is here, and she has, she's with the Board of Commissioners, and she has put people in place that I meet with on a regular basis where we monitor this encampment and other encampments to make sure we're coming at this from a human lens and also trying to take care of the surrounding community. So that would be the update, is we're in a cleanup process. Commissioner Nafai, Nafisa Fai, how did I do?
You did great, Lieutenant. You did great. Yeah, that's, I think one of the things I want to add is we're in the cleanup process of the camp, and then, but since this is a county property, once it's cleaned up, I don't think we have jurisdictional power to prevent anybody from to coming back to the site. But I don't know, Lieutenant, if you've seen anybody. I think the cleanup started August 3rd, and people were served notice the 29th, and they had 5 days to clean up. And I've heard that there's some people that came back to get their belongings, and I've also heard success stories from Under Sheriff Cook. So I think that's where we are with that camp.
You're correct. We cannot keep people from returning, but we can try to manage it so it doesn't get out of control. And so it wasn't until we realized that it was out of control that we started to take some steps to mitigate hazards. And really the problem is we have a deficit in shelter beds and long-term housing that's affordable for all community members. And until we have a deficit in people and not beds, we're going to continue to see this type of concern that we have to manage throughout the county.
Great, thank you so much. I'd like to leave some space at the end of the meeting to return to this in case any of our attendees have questions. But since we do have a guest speaker, I want to make sure that we get to them before it's too late. I'm going to go to Tim really quick with THPRD and let Tim do his check-in with us, and then we will come over to you, Kim.
All right, thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm Tim Bonin with THPRD. I work in the Design and Development Department, and I'm going to give you the updates for this month. THPRD is pleased to bring back the monthly passes. We're going to bring back, starting August 16th, we'll have the General, Deluxe, and Silver Upgrade passes available for community members. And to give you an update on facilities, Conestoga Recreation Center on the aquatic side just closed as of August 2nd for renovation. We're renovating both pools and the decks, getting a new slide, new paint and everything in there. So it'll be closed probably until December. But we did now open up Beaverton Swim Center. So any of you who need a swim, you can go over to the Beaverton Swim Center. And of course, the 50-meter pool is open, and the outdoor pools, Somerset and Raleigh, are still open as well. The LC Stir Center is expected to open in mid-September. Visitors can expect to get back to the weight and cardio room, as well as the game room for play and social activities. We'll have an open house for that. We are planning an open house for that toward the end of August. And then fall registration is starting up. So fall activity schedules are now available online. Registration for programs, classes, activities begins Saturday, August 28th at 8 a.m. for in-district residents. Out-of-district registration begins on Monday, August 30th. Online registration is encouraged, but we will have in-person registration available at our centers, and just check with each center for that. And also on the 28th, we'll have bilingual speakers available at the HMT complex for those who need some assistance in scheduling for new classes and events. And again, in the month of August, we sort of continue along with some of these small scaled activities we did in July to keep kids active through the month of August. On Friday the 6th, we'll have Frozen in the Heat at Channing Heights Park at 10 a.m. So kids can dress up like a favorite character for a day in a Frozen theme event. And then on Monday the 9th, we will have Rock the Park at POPO Park at 6 p.m. POPO Park, as you remember, it's on it's called the New Park in the Bonnie Meadow area. It is just a half a mile or so from Unity Park, which we just recently opened as well, just a little north of Alexander. So you can join us at POPO Park, join staff and your neighbors as we celebrate one of our newest park sites. Enjoy a mobile DJ spinning tunes, prize drawings, activities, and exploring the new park. And with this event, we're also offering a free vaccine clinic, and that'll start at 6:30 p.m. that evening. Again, it is free, and we encourage people to pre-register online. On Tuesday the 10th, we have the Chalk the Block event. That's at Bersati Park at 10 a.m. This event will also include a free vaccination clinic to get your shot. And again, pre-registration is encouraged. On Wednesday the 9th is our regular meeting of the board of the directors. This is our first in-person meeting. You can join us there at 6:30 p.m. And then on Sunday, the 15th, we start our fall native plant sale at Walton Hills Nature Center. The Nature Center is hosting the fall native plant sale in partnership with Sparrowhawk Native Plants. Thousands of habitat-friendly native plants are available, as well as information about the benefits of native plants. This year, you can even go online and order your plants through the Sparrowhawk Native Plants website, and I'll add that link as well. That all starts again in Sunday the 15th, and it goes through September 15th, and you can order all your plants online within those 30 days. On Monday the 16th, we have another hunt and see scavenger hunt at Roger Tilbury Memorial Park. And then on Tuesday the 17th is Superheroes Take Flight at Cedar Hills Park. This also includes the free vaccination clinic. On the 18th, we have a virtual community meeting at 6 p.m. Teach PRD continues planning the future off-street trail connection connecting Southwest Sexton Mountain Drive to the West Side Trail. This is right next to Sexton Mountain Elementary School. It's going to be a gravel trail that connects the school over to the West Side Trail. So please join us for a virtual meeting to learn more about the trail alignment plan, ask questions, and share your input. And then on Monday the 23rd, we have Frozen at Heat at Barrow Park at 10 a.m. And this includes the free vaccination clinic. And then on Friday the 27th, we have Frozen at Heat at Arnold Park at 10 a.m., which also includes the free vaccination clinic. As always, we have volunteer opportunities monthly, and they can be found on our website. So that is the news for the month. Does anybody have any questions for me? Somebody asked about homeless camps on THPRD properties. I am not aware of any camps on our properties. And I think that's mostly because we are dawn to dusk and that camping isn't allowed. Are there any other questions? All right.
All right. Thank you so much, Tim.
Okay. Thank you.
That was great. Sounds like some really fun activities coming up. All right. So we're going to learn a little bit more about the new housing bill, also known as middle housing. Kimberly Armstrong is here, and she's going to share a presentation with us. I'm going to post in the comments really quickly a link to frequently asked questions about middle housing. And Kim, you can go ahead whenever you're ready.
Oh, I should probably unmute, I guess. That I assume that helps. You can see the presentation though, right?
Yes,
okay,
we can see.
Okay, so I'm going to talk to you about middle housing in Washington County, assuming that I can figure out what I'm doing. There we go. Okay, so just your overview here. First, I'm going to talk a little bit about House Bill 2001 in a general sort of way and middle housing. And then we'll sort of talk about the existing conditions in Washington County and the results of the research and market assessment work that we just had done and what we will be doing next, including sort of places for you folks to get involved if you're interested in giving us feedback. So I want to start off by acknowledging right up front, housing is a big, big topic and it's very, very complicated. Land use regulation is a part of what makes housing cost what it does, locate where it does, all that sort of thing, but it is not the only reason. And housing, like land use, like transportation, is an important issue that is regulated by federal, state, regional, and county policies, and we have to comply with all of those. So this has got a lot of overlapping priorities and a lot of and there are situations in which the county's priorities may come into conflict, both here and with other policy issues, right? This is in no way unique to housing. When we talk about our Major Streets Transportation Improvement Program, we acknowledge that we can't fund everything every year. Housing is the same. We can't do everything every time, and we definitely can't do everything through land use regulation alone. And I also want to make sure that I say, before I get much farther, I am not going to talk about the Metro Housing Bond or the Supportive Housing Services measure, because those things, which are very important, are not administered through land use and transportation. They are administered through the Department of Housing Services. And I don't really know very much about them. And I don't want to speak inaccurately about their projects.
Question.
So, yes.
Yeah, Kim, I'm noticing on your slide here that, it says Washington County must consider federal, state, regional, et cetera. Is that a requirement, or is it a suggestion that we consider state, federal, region, and county regulations?
In most cases, it's going to depend on the specific regulation. So for example, Washington County obviously cannot violate federal fair housing law.
Sure.
That's not something that we can just think about complying with. There are other things like some of our land use goals that are less prescriptive. And in that case, there may be guidance, there may be things that we need to think about. So it really, really, really depends, which is why I said must consider rather than must comply with or may consider. There's probably not actually a perfect form of words for that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. So what is middle housing? That's a very fair question. Middle housing is one of those things, like a lot of other housing terms. It's kind of a term of art. It's not, middle housing doesn't have a very firm definition. House Bill 2001 has a very specific definition of what is considered middle housing by House Bill 2001. But middle housing is kind of bigger than that. The concept of middle housing is essentially any housing unit or any building that is a housing unit-ish building that has more than one dwelling in it. Usually, middle housing is approximately the same size as a regular detached single home. But as we all know, regular detached single homes come in a really wide range of sizes. So that only, that gives you an envelope, but not necessarily a firm square footage. And middle housing is something that was commonly built in a lot of urban areas before like the 1940s, 1950s. We don't have a ton of it developed in Washington County, largely because much of Washington County developed in the 60s and 70s. But it is something that is relatively common in many urban areas, and it's commonly mixed into areas that have detached single homes. So the legislative purpose of House Bill 2001 is to increase the housing supply by reducing barriers to housing types that can be smaller or less costly than detached homes. And that is, I realize, a comment that is fairly full of qualifiers, and that is simultaneously irritating and true, as is true of many of these things. Middle housing is not, strictly speaking, about housing affordability. It's really about housing supply. In many cases, middle housing can be cheaper, and it usually is cheaper than new detached single family homes, but it is not necessarily affordable to a household with a low income. So that's an important qualification to clarify, and I can definitely talk more about that if you want, but if I don't keep going, I will never get through these slides. So the legislature adopted this bill in 2019. The Department of Land Use and Conservation put together rules. We are required to comply by June 2020. what this requires us to do is allow middle housing types by June 2020. And we should also, I should emphasize again here, allowing something to be theoretically developed does not cause development to occur by itself. And just because something is allowed doesn't mean it's required either. So again, try and think about this as providing additional options rather than making a definite change to what you will see in most neighborhoods. So who needs middle housing? All sorts of people need middle housing. I lived in a duplex until quite recently, in fact, and it was great. My folks keep making noises about building an ADU or trying to get one of us to build an ADU. And I really think that my sister should do that and not me. And when my kids are in college, perhaps then I will think that an ADU is a good idea. And then I can put the college kids in the backyard and say, have fun. Please don't bother me, I'm old. So, you know, this is, I want to encourage everybody to really think about this as being a one housing product that can fit into the mix of housing products. And we all need different things at different stages of our life. So again, this is something to add diversity to our housing stock. So the implementation process and timeline, as you can see, is lengthy, and we've done a bunch of things already. A lot of the things that we have done so far are really focused on the stuff that we don't have a lot of choices on. There are definitely things in House Bill 2001 that are set in legislation. So we wanted to get a handle on those things before we started reaching out to the community, partially because we really didn't want to ask the community questions that might lead you. We don't want to give you the impression that there are options available to you that there are really not, that the state has made that decision. And so that's an important thing where before we started doing a lot of public outreach, we really wanted to be clear on where we had local flexibility. And in some cases, because again, housing is complicated, we're still getting clarity on that. So I have clarity on some things, but not others. And as you can see, we're going to be doing briefings and outreach and engagement kind of all along here. I think I may have a slide about it later. So if there's not, I'll touch on it again later. So House Bill 2001 says that we may continue to allow detached dwellings, that we can regulate siting and design of middle housing, and that we can allow middle housing in additional locations. We must not discourage the development of middle housing through unreasonable cost or delay. And what unreasonable cost or delay means, roughly, is approximately the same amount of cost or delay that we put a regular detached single-family dwelling to. So we can't hold middle housing to higher standards or require additional things from middle housing that we do not require from new detached single-family. We are required by House Bill 2001 to allow, again, allow does not mean it will definitely occur. It means that we must allow a duplex on any residential lot that would allow a single family home. This does not necessarily mean that we have to increase the building envelope that you can put building in. It just means that we have to allow up to 2 units in that building envelope, right? So it doesn't necessarily change setbacks or things like that. For other types of middle housing, the county can set minimum lot sizes. If we choose to establish minimum lot sizes, then we must allow triplexes on lots that are 5,000 square feet or larger, fourplexes on lots that are 7,000 square feet or larger, and cottage clusters on lots that are 7,000 square feet or larger. We also have to allow townhomes at 20 to 25 units an acre. State law establishes our parking minimums. This is the minimum that we can require, though there is nothing that would prevent a developer from providing additional parking if they chose to do so. And we can establish design requirements. I do also want to emphasize, because a lot of people didn't know this, and it's okay, because nobody except for planners like me care. But technically, Washington County has actually allowed attached housing in almost all residential districts this whole time. We just have not seen very much of it develop for a number of reasons. So let's talk a little bit about what is in the county right now. One of the things that is important to know is that the vast majority of Washington County, the land in Washington County, is designated for residential uses, almost all of it. And almost all of that is for low density residential. Also, our residential land is all developed significantly below capacity. I have the numbers in a report later and I could go into them, but it's not. The important thing is we are below our maximum allowed capacity. The thing that Clean Water Services and other service providers use to figure out their capacity is the maximum density that we allow on the ground. No place is even close to that right now. So potentially eligible lots for middle housing include essentially all of the residential lots in the county, because we would allow a detached single home on basically all residential land. And that's the criteria for House Bill 2001. So we will be allowing middle housing on essentially all residential land. We hired Eco Northwest to do a feasibility assessment for us because we wanted to know, again, because allowing something and seeing something happen in reality are two different things. We wanted to find out whether it was feasible to develop or redevelop middle housing anywhere in Washington County. So we hired Eco Northwest. And what we found out is that in most cases, it is very unlikely in most cases that a parcel with a home on it, with an actual building that people live in, it is very unlikely that it would pencil to demolish the building and build middle housing. There is not, most of the lots that middle housing development is theoretically developmentally feasible are vacant lots or large lots with just one, with one unit that's off to the side. And it's approximately twice as many lots that would theoretically be feasible for development now with detached housing. Again, so we're talking about 3% of the lots in Washington County would be financially feasible to develop with middle housing at this particular moment in time. So if land costs change, if construction costs change, this is going to change over time. But the thing to focus on here is this only happens if the landowner decides that they want to sell in almost all cases. There are exceptions, but in most cases, redevelopment or development changes happen when a property changes hands. So what would have to happen for middle housing to develop, say, next to you, which is possible in some cases, I don't want to suggest that it's not, is that the property next to you would have to be for sale. It would have to be purchased by somebody who wanted to develop middle housing on it. They would have to be able to get the construction and the permits and the labor and all that and be able to figure it out and get financing and make it pencil and do all the construction. And so it's not impossible. It's not, but it's not really likely in most cases. We saw a strong, will not surprise anybody, there was a strong indication that ownership housing, particularly townhomes, would be more profitable for developers and therefore be the product that they would be most likely to build, absent other incentives or changes. So we know that we're going to need to make changes to the Community Development Code in order to implement House Bill 2001. The bill and rules are quite prescriptive in many cases, and so there are going to be places where we just don't have a lot of local flexibility. However, there are places that we do. So one of the things that we're going to need to talk through is how much of the model code we want to use versus developing our own code language. Washington County has a unique land use code, but that's true of every jurisdiction. And using the model code means that we don't have to write it ourselves, and that might be good. We can limit middle housing development in some areas like goal protected areas and master plan communities. That would be probably the areas in North Bethany that are not already developed would be considered master plan communities. We are also going to have to discuss some issues that are probably going to be pretty challenging for everybody involved. We're definitely going to have to talk about how we handle street frontage improvements. Right now, there are situations in which you could develop a detached single family home on an existing lot and not have to do street frontage improvements. That's something that we need to talk about because that's going to have some implications for how we consider middle housing. That's probably going to be a tough conversation for everybody because those street frontage improvements are super duper important, and we all know that, and they're extraordinarily expensive. And that'll be a tough talk, and I look forward to working it out. We do have the ability to apply siting and design standards. They are outlined in the model code, I believe, so we'll be able to talk about that. There's some things that we can twiddle with cottage clusters and townhomes that may help make them work better in the community and conform better and stuff like that without adding a lot of cost. And because of the Senate bill that was recently passed that requires some land division work around middle housing, that's going to be another thing that we'll have to talk about and change. Though again, that one's quite new and will probably be, again, a challenge. So right now we're working on there's an online open house and a survey, which I hope everybody took. We just found out from the state that we were awarded $150,000 for engagement. So that's very exciting. We are working on an RFP to bring an engagement consultant on. For those of you who are interested to know this kind of thing, we are trying to do one RFP for an engagement consultant to do our middle housing work and the MISTIP work, so that we can avoid going back to communities 2 days running to talk to them about transportation one day and housing the next day because they don't like that. So we will have more information from you about how the engagement is going to work once we've got the consultant on board, because we want the consultant to help us put together our engagement plan because they know more about engagement than me. I'm a planner. And we're going to be going back to the board and the planning commission regularly. And we will probably, I imagine we will be asked to come back here, and so we'll be happy to come back here too. So this is the team, and I am happy to answer questions to the best of my ability.
Great, that was a great presentation. Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Kimberly? Not seeing anything so far.
It's so fascinating that just nobody can stand it.
I guess
what
I have
will that
one.
look like for?
I've got one
go ahead.
question. Hi. How close are you guys working with the city of Beaverton? Is there any kind of dichotomy there? Are you guys on the same page or different pages? How's that going?
Yeah, we are coordinating with Beaverton and Hillsborough. We met with them, a couple of them just today, actually, and talked about the possibility of coordinating, doing some more coordination on our engagement. So yeah, we are talking to both Beaverton and Hillsborough, partially because House Bill 2001 applies equally to all of us, all of the jurisdictions in the metro region are subject to House Bill 2001. And the House Bill 2001 is the way it is for all of us.
Right.
So there's that. So basic educational information, we probably could develop together, like, you know, what's middle housing, because we're all doing the same thing. So yes, and also theoretically, the urban and incorporated areas that are in Washington County's jurisdiction currently, theoretically, eventually will annex into the cities,
Well,
theoretically.
is Beaverton and Hillsborough or Tigard or whoever, are they going to follow your guide, the county's guidance, or are they kind of developing their own?
I mean, none of us are required by state law, or none of us are required to do the same thing out, as long as we comply with the framework of House Bill 2001. So nobody is formally saying we're going to do the same thing, partially because we have to make it work with all of our individual development codes, and those are all, of course, different, because of course they are. So it's a looser coordination than it's a looser coordination.
So everyone's kind of doing their own thing, is what you're saying.
Under the framework of House Bill 2001, yes. Though
Okay.
we are trying to coordinate and hopefully reduce the places that we really want to avoid being really divergent from Washington County cities. And I think that we will be able to avoid that. So we'll do our best.
Okay, good. Thank you.
All right. Michael, I see your hand, and I'm going to come to you in just a second. We had a question here from Ronald. Is RFP a request for planning?
It's a request for proposals. Sorry, request for proposals.
Okay, and then Diane had a comment about concern about putting housing on all the open land, increasing traffic, and that not being good for the environment. Will transportation be able to keep up with the development as far as the roads and stuff goes?
This is going to be another one of those places where, because we can't reasonably give you absolute assurances on things like future transportation capacity, I cannot absolutely promise. We are coordinating with transportation, and again, our transportation network is designed, at least partially, with the idea that the area is built out to its maximum allowed capacity. And right now, we're below that. I recognize that that doesn't make anybody feel better if you live near one of the intersections that is already pretty cruddy, and you probably are horrified. So I'm sorry about that. So it could increase traffic on some of those roads. It could, however, support additional transit improvements in the future if we increase density, because one of the things that often drives transit expansions is existing number of boarding. So once you start getting greater pockets of population, you can sometimes get increased transit service. That may not offset it, but so that's a reasonable concern. We definitely should take that into consideration. Though again, we're probably talking about a pretty gradual transition in neighborhoods as properties turn over. So we're probably not going to see, I mean, we may, but we're probably not going to see suddenly like even 10 or 20 middle housing units in a particular location.
Right. Okay. Is that something that maybe would be covered on the survey that you were talking about?
Yes, I believe that there's definitely at least some open-ended, like, are there other concerns? I have now totally forgotten all of the questions on the survey, even though I took it. So
would you be able to post a link specifically to the survey in our comments? And then, Okay, that would be great.
I
Thank
think
you.
somebody did, didn't they? Or,
We can do it again.
I posted, yeah, I posted one to the frequently asked questions page.
ah,
All right, so I'm gonna go to Michael with a question. Michael, you should be able to talk.
Thank
Are
you.
you there? Oh,
My
great.
only concern is the spread of this middle housing and ensuring that it goes throughout the county, not just be in specific, even though, yes, the county is going to write the rules to say that, yeah, anyone can build anywhere. Well, great. But what are we going to do to ensure that it does happen, that it gets built everywhere and not in certain communities, such as, well, currently I am seeing in Aloha a lot of us being built. And what's going up? Housing, 3 stories tall, 6 feet between houses for individual houses or townhomes. And we're talking 2 or 3 story townhomes going up. And that is all I'm seeing. I'm not seeing these single homes built that are 8, 10, 12, 15 feet from another one, as there is up on Cooper Mountain or out in North Bethany. You know, those homes over there are getting, you know, that. So what is going to make sure that we spread so it's not one local area that's going to get redesigned into middle housing?
Well, Washington County, like most other jurisdictions, our place, for lack of a better term, is to establish the regulatory basis. And then the market Washington County produces essentially no housing. That's less true now because of the bond stuff, but in general, the private market produces housing. It's not produced by government agencies. So once we establish the regulatory basis, the market decides where those housing types go and how they're priced, and we don't have any control over that. Oregon state law specifically prohibits local jurisdictions from defining the affordability levels of housing units. We are not allowed to do that under state law. So we cannot prohibit middle housing from particular locations. We can't allow it everywhere. If it is profitable and can be built in some locations, that is likely where the market will choose to build it. And there are some areas that that it may not be as profitable, or it may not be as profitable as other forms of housing. And in those situations, we may not see it. And there may be situations in which middle housing is a feasible development form, but the developer decides for whatever reason to do detached single family homes anyway, because that's what they're familiar with. But we're gonna need to allow middle housing every place that we allow detached single family homes. And that includes duplexes, triplexes, quads, townhomes, and cottage clusters.
it seems to me like we're sending a mixed message, because it sounds like the developer has the right to decide what he wants to do, but the jurisdictions say we got to do middle housing.
Well, we have to allow middle housing.
Right. Okay.
Right. And if the community, one of the things that is going to be something that we are probably going to want to talk about as a community as we work through this compliance process, because state law is state law, right? We need to comply with state law because it's state law.
But
we do have a deadline.
But the developers, do they have to follow state law?
Well,
see the disconnect. At least I see something like. Or am I,
I mean, yes, the developers have to follow state law also.
but you just got through saying that they don't have to. If they don't want to put middle housing in, they don't have to.
That's correct. The state law doesn't say that they have to build middle housing. It says we
Okay.
have to allow it.
Just seems a little confusing, I think, to the public.
It is,
Yeah.
and this is, you're right. And this is one of the many reasons why land use regulation is irritating. Because a lot of this stuff really hinges on may and must and when, and like that stuff really matters in land use. It's very annoying. So we do have to allow it. If the county and if the population of the county said, hey, middle housing is super, but it's super important to us that we have middle housing units that are affordable to lower income households, or ownership units that are I'm trying to think of a good example and I can't think of one besides affordability. But if you can think of good examples, we can incentivize things. So we can say, if you want to build townhomes that are affordable ownership units for households that are at lower income levels, we'll give you a property tax abatement or something like that. But that discussion of incentivizing is something that, because we have a pretty tight timeline for getting into compliance and we don't have a lot of staff resources, we are encouraging folks to really think about those kind of enhancements, like encouraging middle housing in certain locations, as being something that we do after we meet the basic compliance deadline, so that we don't end up getting stuck having to directly apply the model code.
Great. Any other questions or comments? All right. I was thinking probably land prices have something to do with where things are being built as far as profitability. So
yes, that
there's
is true.
not a whole lot we can.
Yes, yeah, that's true. Land prices are a big thing and there's not much we can do about that. And I am happy to, in addition to sending the survey, if anybody is interested in looking at that economic feasibility work that we had Eco Northwest do, those reports are available on the county's website as well. And that has a whole lot of very detailed information about the developability of middle housing. So if you want that information, that's there. And we're happy to walk you through it too, if you don't want to have to read the 100-page report.
All right. Thank you so much, Kimberly. If we don't have any more questions, I just want to say thanks. That was a great presentation, and it'll be really interesting to see kind of how all of that plays out.
Yeah, it'll be exciting to see how this evolves in the community.
Great. Thank you so much. Yeah, we would love to have you back in a couple months, see how everything is going.
Yeah.
Great. All right. Thank you. Okay. I wanted to reserve some time right now, just very quickly. We are getting really close to 8 o'clock and I don't want to hold everybody here too long. But I do want to open up for a few minutes to, if anybody has any specific questions about, again, the houseless camp, if there's anything else that we haven't covered that you would like to ask about, feel free to do that now, either in the comments, or you can raise your hand and you can ask. You can direct it at any of our panelists here. So now is your opportunity if you have anything you would like to know. All right, I will let you think on that for just a second. Oh, we do have one question here. Are there other homeless camps besides the one on, I think it probably means 197th and Baseline in our area?
I can probably take that one if you're good with that, Commissioner Fye. So we do have other, what I call onesie, twosie pockets. And so sometimes when people start to experience houselessness, they will start to show up on, say, under freeway bridges, and we try to get them out of unsafe areas and connect them with shelter. So we do have those. We do have another, as far as county encampments in unincorporated, we do have one out west off of Highway 47 that we do try to support and connect them with resources. I don't see any other questions popping up, so I'm gonna try to share a little bit of success of what has been happening, because when we go down into those communities and we come at that from a human lens, we actually have been able to connect quite a few people to how to get into shelter for the chronically homeless. And you know, this isn't necessarily an arena to discuss how someone becomes houseless or how there's not affordable housing when someone loses their job or experiences a struggle in life. But one of the things that we are trying to do is connect them to resources to get them into a more humane type situation.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Fye, did you have like any other kind of updates related to this issue at all that you would like to share? I thought we would have more questions, but I'm not seeing them, so.
I think it says, where do you think or expect the 197 baseline camp to move to? And I don't think it's moving. We're cleaning, I think, and then it's the county property. So it's, I don't think we're, besides cleaning, correct me, Lieutenant Foley, if I'm wrong, but we're cleaning and that's it. We're not really putting any gates up. And
no, we're not securing the property to keep people out. We have asked, because of the safety of workers and things like that, we've asked people to seek other areas or accommodations. And I actually went and facilitated a van to try to get people to shelter. I connected with other resources, Project Homeless Connect, which has been a great partner in this process to connect people to resources. So it's not that we're expecting them to move somewhere else or just place them in the community. It's that we're trying to reconstitute the land so it's safe, and then also to connect them to resources like Project Homeless Connect, and also long-term affordable shelter, which may touch a little bit with that middle housing type idea. So those are the things that we are trying to do, is get sustainable housing for those that experience houselessness. So we're not trying to displace them, because one, that would be really hard on the surrounding community, and two, it would really be inhumane to the individuals that have nowhere to go. So we recognize that.
Is that camp on the near 197th and Baseline, is that the largest in the county, or is that just one of a few that are large?
You know, that's a really good question, and I'll try to answer that in under a minute, and hopefully someone else can ask a question too. So that's relative to size. So if we have one individual or 10 individuals on a large piece of county property, then that would be the largest camp because it's a large piece of property. Or if we look at how many people are in a smaller area, then you know, what am I measuring that by? So as far as how many of our unhoused community members are in one location, I would say that that's likely the largest that I've seen.
Interesting. Okay, thank you.
That's a good question too. How many have been staying there? So you can imagine that people who experience houselessness are not comfortable with necessarily talking to the police because they've not had a good experience. I came into this program as a child that experienced houselessness and went through grade school being unhoused. I lost my home to Hurricane Beulah. So I also have a brother that passed on the streets being unhoused. I come at this as a real strong human approach. So, however, people are sometimes a little distrusting until we build that bridge with them and connect with them. So when we go down there, not everybody sticks around. So I would say it's in the teens or lower. Yes, ma'am. Oh, you're leaving.
Mitch,
Great.
Doug, oh, you got it, Becky.
go ahead.
I saw Doug's question. So Doug
Oh, yeah.
asked approximately how many family units have been staying there?
Yeah, and so that's what I was answering is it's in the low, I would say it's in the low teens, but I can't get a solid number on it because when I do show up, people leave.
All right, Lyles. Lyles has his hand up.
You're muted?
I think you're on mute.
Okay.
There you go.
I just want to thank Lieutenant Coley for coming tonight and contributing and answering our questions, because he's given us a lot of information that a lot of us have had questions about, and many of us drive by every day or every couple of days. And so again, I just want to say thank you very much.
Thank you for the support. It's really important to do good work, and that makes it easier.
Yeah, we really appreciate that. I know there's been a lot of questions and concern about it, so I just really appreciate everybody spending so much time on it today. I wanted to mention just really quickly that Commissioner Fye had to go, but she said that her August town hall will be on this topic. So I will try to find information on that, get that from Commissioner Fye and post it on our CPO6 Facebook page for anybody who is interested in attending Commissioner Fye's August town hall and hearing more about this. I did want to say very quickly, I have just a couple really quick updates here. Let's see. All right, here we go. Okay, so there's a public hearing on August 19th. Intel is planning to build a new warehouse here on Southwest Blanton. So they are having a virtual meeting if anybody is interested in that. 6 p.m. and the call-in number is here. The conference ID and the video meeting link is right there. So if you need that and you don't get it, feel free to email us at cpo6leaders@gmail.com and I can send that to you. Next, we have another public hearing, August 16th. The location is on site. It's just west of 20100 Southwest Blanton. And this is the property that they have been talking into making into 4 lots. So if anybody's interested in that, you can attend that meeting. Our next meeting is September 2nd, and our topic is to be announced. And Lieutenant Coley, go ahead. I'll stop sharing.
I just wanted to talk about the upcoming town hall. It would really be good if all of you would look at the link that I think Cody put in the chat, where to look at frequently asked questions, so that some of those questions you might have might already be answered.
Great. Thank you. All right. Let's see. Any other questions? Anything before we sign off tonight?
Yeah, I just want to say that
Oh, yeah.
I'm moving on. I'm the immediate past vice chair of this group when Lyles was or Lyles, or wherever he is on your screen, was the chair of the group. And you know, I've been participating for quite a few years, and we're downsizing and moving near our grandson in Portland. So in about 2 weeks, I'm going to be moving to Multnomah County. So this is my last meeting that I'll be attending. So it's been fun, and I'm real happy that Becky is taking over the chairmanship and Ken's involved. And I think this CPO will continue to thrive and grow. I saw how many people were at the meeting tonight, and it's way more than we ever got when we were doing in-person meetings. So it's been very successful. So I'm very happy for the group, and I'm leaving it in perfectly capable hands here. So.
We're
Thank you
gonna miss
so
you,
much
Sam.
for all of your work. Yeah. You're
And
welcome
you'll
to
be
come back and
missed.
visit.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much. All right. If anybody else is still out there, we are always open to topics. If you want to know about anything that's going on in our community, please feel free to email us at cpo6leaders@gmail.com. And we would love to hear from you. We really want to make sure that we are, you know, directing our attention to the things that are important to you. So let us know.
And join the
with that-
Facebook page. And join the Facebook page too, if you aren't on it.
Yeah,
right?
join our Facebook page. Yes, please. Yeah, great. All right. Thank you, everybody. I hope you have a great weekend. Stay cool. Stay cool this week. All right.